Hi everyone, this is Giridhar Kumar Maurya, and today I'm going to do a financial analysis of the Morgan Stanley data using the Python. We know that Morgan Stanley is the major global banking institutions, and nowadays digital transactions are increasing day by day, and also financial risks are also increasing. So I will identify the customer behavior with the account type, and will find the trends between debit and credit transactions, and also find out the high risk and low risk accounts with the customers, how the customers are using their account through the analysis. So these are the columns names which are in the data, and these are the tasks which I have to perform. So here through the Python I have analyzed the all risk, and first of all I have imported the NumPy and Pandas library, and then imported our data which is kept in the D drive, and I have calculated all the informations, and find out that there is the zero null values in this data, and there are total 800 rows, and there is no duplicate found in the transaction type and account type and customer ID and transaction IDs. And after the calculations I have calculated all the things, and at last I have find all the missing values and checked for the null values in this data, then checked for the data table for numerical columns, and then change the data date format into the standardized format for the calculation purpose, and then at last we have checked the complete info of the table records and the data type here. So coming to the task 2, where we have to analyze the descriptive transaction analysis, and then I have uh, extracted the year and month data from the transaction date and transaction date, and then we have printed the monthly summary on the basis of above data, and also printed the yearly summary on the basis of above data. I, so we can see that after extracting the year, we can found there we have the data of 2 years, 2023 and 2024, and these are the credit and debit transaction all over the years of total customers. So in this database, next we have to plot the trends in total credit vs debit over time. So we can see that the debit transaction is very high compared to the credit transactions. It means customer are spending more than the saving. And then other task is to identify the top and bottom performing account based on the net flows. So we have calculated the uh, credits and debit transactions by grouping by the account ID, and then we can see here that total credit and debit transaction, also the net flow. We have calculated all the net flow here, and on the basis of above data we have calculated the top accounts. So these are the top accounts we have calculated on the basis of net flows, credit and debit transactions, and these are the bottom accounts we have calculated on the basis of above data. And then we have to identify and flag accounts as the inactive accounts or dormant account, and the situation is that if account is if transaction there is a gap of 2 months in the transactions, and that will be as the inactive account. So first of all we have uh, imported the pandas, and then we have sorted all the values account ID and transaction data, and after that we have uh, taken the value 60 days, like if any account is inactive from last 60 days, then that is the inactive account, otherwise active account. And after that all the calculations we have calculated the gap dash between the previous transaction and the current transaction date, and these are the accounts which are the inactive or dormant accounts. Then we have create the customer profile, like if there is the high transactions, like if there is more than 20 transactions, then that is categorized as the high transaction customers. If there is the transaction between 20 to 10, these are the medium transactions, otherwise the low transaction customers. And on the basis of that all transactions, we have calculated this data, this account ID having the transaction count high and activity level is low. Overall, there are the 183 accounts that have the low activity levels. Only the sixth account have the medium activity levels here. Coming to the next task, we have also plotted this data on the graph, and we can see here then there are 183 accounts which have the low activity levels, and the 6 accounts having the medium activity levels. Like that, we have also calculated on the basis of balance segment. Like if there is the higher than 50,000 transactions, they are the high balance, and 20,000 between the 50,000 customers having the medium balance transactions. On the basis of above data, we have calculated the average balance and transaction volumes, and balance segment and volume segment, categorize all the accounts on the basis of the balance segment and the volume segment. So we can see that account ID 0 number, account ID 117 having the average balance 66,625, and the transaction volume is 9, and it has the high balance because the balance is more than 50,000. Okay, but the volume is low. Like that, I have also plotted the graph on the basis of customer transactions. And next is the high net we have to calculate the high net inflow accounts, high frequency low balance accounts, and the accounts with negative or near zero balance. So first of all, I have calculated the credits, all the credits. Then I have calculated all the debits, total debits, like payment plus transfer plus withdrawal, and then we calculated the summary. And after all the calculations, we have the customer profile, like credit and debit and total net flow. Like credit minus debit is total net flow. So we can see here that after that all the calculations, we found that the some customer have the 3 transaction count. Average transaction is 24,000, whereas the net flow is 74,852. Means these are the positive net flow. Means customer have credited the more amount comparison to spending the amount. And coming to the task 4, we have to do the financial risk identifications. So here we have to find out all the withdrawals. So I have calculated all the withdrawals, and these are all the withdrawals we have calculated here. And then transaction accounts with frequent large withdrawals or overdraft. So I have segmented it on the basis of, like, if there is transaction above the 50,000, that is the higher withdrawal, and if there is transaction between 20,000 to 50,000, that is the medium withdrawal, and below the 20,000, that is the low withdrawal. So on the basis of this data, I have calculated that, and find out that these account have the frequent large withdrawal, like that all withdrawal is larger than the 50,000 in a month. Next task is to calculate the balance volatility using the standard deviation and coefficient of variation. So for this, I have calculated the mean and standard deviation and transaction count, and by gathering all the data, I have calculated the coefficient of variation here. So every account having their individual CV percentage, coefficient of variation percentage here. Now here I have finded out the outliers using IQR. So we can see that there is the higher transaction of 1,50,000 to 1,25,000. These are the outliers. Then we have to highlight the customer with irregular or suspicious transaction behavior. So after all the calculations, and we found that these accounts having the higher and suspicious account behavior. Had the conduct the extensive exploratory data analysis with attractive visualization. So here I have done the exploratory data analysis, and first of all I have taken all the informations of the data, and then done the plotted the graph on the basis of distribution of transaction amount, and then I have plotted the graph of transaction amount outliers. So these are the high transactions that is shown in the outlier graphs, and then we have calculated the monthly credit vs debit. So we can see that the orange line denotes the debit transactions and the blue line denotes the credit transactions. So credit is very low comparison to the debit. So customer are spending the more money, but they are saving the less money in comparison to the spending. Also I have calculated the customer activity levels on the basis of pie chart. So we can see more than 96% of customers having the low customer activities, where the 3.2% have the medium activity levels. And here on the basis of above data I have plotted this graph. So we can see that there is major customers who are not suspicious, only major customers having the account level on suspicious customers, but the low customers having the low levels. Approx 149 customers approximately 149 customers among the 800 customers having the suspicious activity based on the above data. Here I have calculated the correlation heat map. So I have just correlated all the data with the transaction ID, transaction amount, and account balance. And then I have plotted the daily transaction trend. So we can see that daily transaction trend is highly fluctuated, like there is highly credit and debit transaction is happening. Here I have calculated the hypothesis testing based on the segmentations. So in the above data I have done the segmentation on the basis of account balance and customer activity and transactions. Like if greater than 20 transactions in the month, they have the higher activity in their transactions and account. And these are the data that I have calculated. Then I have calculated the T statics and the P value, where T statics is none and P value is none. At the last we have to do the hypothesis testing based on the segmentations. So in the above data we have calculated all the segmentations of the customers, like high segment, medium segment, and low segment. And then on the basis of that data I have calculated the F statics and P value. So we have calculated P statics is none and P value is none, and alpha is 0.05. So here we can see that if after calculating this, we can see that failed to reject A0, no significant difference between the customer segment found. And then I have plotted this graph on the basis of above data. And at last we have calculated the P value, that is less than 0.05. So this reject the null hypothesis, and there is sufficient statistical evidence that customer segment differ in their average balance, and if the value is 0.05, then it's failed to reject the null hypothesis, and there is insufficient statistic evidence to conclude that average balance and differ between the segment. So overall analysis, on the basis of our analysis, we examined the 800 banking transactions across the 189 customer accounts to understand the transaction patterns and customer activity. So most customers were classified as the low activity users, approximately 183 accounts, while only 6 accounts showed the medium activities. So the analysis identified the 14 net flow accounts and representing the valuable customers with a strong possible cash flow, and 153 accounts with negative and near zero net flow. So it's indicating the higher spending than deposits. Additionally, 118 dormant accounts were detected, highlighting the opportunities for customer re-engagement and personalized banking services. Also, we have calculated some financial risk, uh, done the financial risk analysis, like we have done the withdrawal analysis, balance volatility analysis, dormancy detections, and J-score anomaly detections. So after done the analysis, we have detected that three statistical transactions anomalies and flagged the 149 customers account as potentially suspicious based on multiple risk indicators. So these insights support the fraud detection, financial risk and monitoring, and proactive customer risk. So the overall analysis in this overall analysis, I have used the Python pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, and also done the statistical analysis to transform the banking transaction data into the meaningful business insight. And this analysis improved the customer segmentation, identified the dormant and high risk account, and detected the suspicious transactions, as well as provided the value recommendations uh, for the enhancing customer relationship management and the fraud detection technique. Thank you so much.